Right now, inside your body, there are cells that have stopped doing their job but refuse to die. Scientists call them zombie cells, and they sit there quietly pumping out inflammation and accelerating how fast you age. But here's the good news. Your body has a built-in system for clearing out cellular damage, and there's a specific fasting window that switches it into overdrive. This protocol has become the gold standard for biorepair, yet you're likely stuck in a cycle of cellular decay. In just 36 hours, this specific autophagy protocol triggers a deep cellular cleanup that modern scientists suggest can actually roll back your biological clock. Imagine waking up with the cellular profile of someone years younger simply by mastering this one specific metabolic window. In this video, I'm deep into the 36-hour autophagy protocol, a precise blueprint designed to optimize mitochondrial health and trigger deep tissue repair. So if you want to maximize your human potential and erase years of cellular stress, this is the only guide you need. You see, your body is carrying zombie cells. These are senescent or aged cells that have stopped working properly but refuse to die. They're lingering and they're pumping out inflammation that accelerates aging. Every cell is designed to self-destruct or be cleared out when it becomes too damaged to function properly. However, when certain cells face continuous stress from DNA damage or telomere shortening, they hit a biological glitch. They stop dividing but manage to resist cellular death. They enter a state of suspended animation, becoming zombies that simply sit in your tissues, taking up space and resources. These zombie cells don't just sit there quietly, they're metabolically active. They release a harmful cocktail of chemicals known as senescence-associated secretory phenotype, or SASPs. This chemical stew triggers inflammation. It spreads systemic low-grade inflammation, often called inflammaging, to otherwise healthy areas of the body. They also infect neighbors. The toxic proteins act like a disease, forcing neighboring healthy cells into becoming zombie cells as well. They literally infect them. They stop tissue repair. They suppress collagen production and prevent stem cells from regenerating. This ultimately accelerates the aging process in your body. And because your immune system gradually becomes less efficient at clearing these cells as you grow older, zombie cells accumulate rapidly in your organs and tissues. This relentless accumulation is linked to wrinkles, organ decline, and chronic conditions like arthritis, heart disease, and cognitive decline. But the good news is your body was designed to clear these damaged cells. We have a system called autophagy. That is Greek for self-eating. And that's your body's built-in cleanup crew. It breaks down and recycles damaged proteins and worn-out cell parts. And a deep fast is one of the most powerful ways to switch it into high gear. Yoshinori Ohsumi won the 2016 Nobel Prize for mapping how autophagy works. We know modern day, we're grazing all the time. People are eating 6, 7, 8 meals a day, constantly grazing, constantly taking in calories. That keeps insulin elevated, and that keeps that cleanup system switched off. And most people almost never trigger autophagy. We have an autophagy deficiency in our society. The 36-hour fast has become one of the most talked about protocols in the longevity world for exactly this reason. It pushes past the shallow benefits of everyday intermittent fasting into the window where deep cellular repair is thought to really ramp up. You see, a daily 16-hour fast is a good way to do intermittent fasting, but it's really entry level. 36 hours is the deep end. That's where insulin bottoms out, ketones climb, and the body shifts toward cleanup and repair mode. So to understand why the 36-hour fast works, we have to look at what happens when our bodies are deprived of a constant stream of sugar. You see, during the first 12 to 16 hours, your body burns through its readily available energy stores. That's going to be the glycogen, the stored glucose within our muscles as well as within our liver. But around the 18 to 24 hour mark, a metabolic switch flips. Because no food is coming in, the body realizes it needs to look elsewhere for fuel. So it turns to stored body fat and it begins producing something called ketone. Now, ketones are an incredibly efficient fuel source, especially for the brain. So they can cross the blood-brain barrier. Fatty acids are not able to cross the blood-brain barrier. This is why the liver produces ketones. They're water-soluble, smaller molecules cross the blood-brain barrier. They can help the brain, the neurons, produce energy. Up to about 60% of the energy in the neurons can come from ketones. They also are epigenetic modulators, and they turn down inflammation in the brain. This is why many fasters report a sudden surge of mental clarity and productivity around the 24-hour fasting mark. But the magic doesn't stop at fat burning. We know a study published in the Journal of Cell Metabolism showed that intermittent fasting, like the 36-hour protocol I'm talking about, profoundly decreased inflammatory markers in the body. Chronic inflammation is a primary driver of aging and age-related diseases. By giving your digestive system a complete rest, your body can redirect its resources toward healing and repair. And there's a metabolic shift when glucose drops and your body gets into deep ketosis. We're going to go through that. Hours 0 to 12, right? So the first 12 hours of your fast, the body runs on the last meal it ate along with the stored liver glycogen, but insulin is still doing its job. So insulin's elevated to some degree. Then from hours 12 to 18, we know glycogen depletes, insulin starts to fall, and the body ramps up fat burning and early ketosis begins. And then we know again, ketones are markers for fat burning, and again, they reduce inflammation in the body and the brain. Then at hours 18 to 24, we know that ketones rise and insulin drops down, which is the key signal that shifts cells from the grow and store phase toward cleanup and repair. And then hours 24 to 36, now we're just in this deep ketosis as well as cellular repair. This is the real work of cellular repair that takes place between hours 24 and 36. You see, the AMPK mTOR switch, when energy is plentiful, we know that mTOR is turned on. That's the growth switch. It's active and it suppresses autophagy. When energy drops during a fast, like at that 18-hour mark, AMPK, that energy sensor, activates. That suppresses mTOR and turns autophagy on. This switch is the real mechanistic engine of the whole protocol. This low insulin, ketone-fueled state supports clearing out damaged mitochondria. We call that mitophagy, so cells can rely on healthier ones. It will also stimulate mitochondrial biogenesis, or the formation of new, healthy, stress-resilient mitochondria. And we know the quality of your life comes down to the amount of high-functioning, stress-resilient mitochondria you have in the cells of your body. So let's talk about a step-by-step execution of this. So before the fast, let's talk about what you need to eat. We want to emphasize high protein, 30 to 50 grams or more of protein in your meals, healthy fats, plenty of fiber, while going lighter on refined carbs. That's going to stabilize your blood sugar. It's going to blunt the hunger swings and the cravings that come from a big sugar spike and crash before the clock starts. You want to front load hydration. Consider a lower carb day beforehand to reach ketosis. So if you go low carb the day before you start your fast, you get the benefits even faster. So that's a really good practice to have before you do the 36-hour fast. And then during the fast, the 24 to 30 hour stretch is often where mental clarity picks up. See, the ketones fuel the brain efficiently, and BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor, tends to rise with fasting, which many people feel as sharper focus. Hunger also often paradoxically eases here as ketones climb. So as ketones elevate, you actually feel less hunger, less cravings. It's only when your blood sugar's all over the place, when it's bouncing up and down, that's when you start to notice hunger and cravings. As ketones elevate, blood sugar stays stable, you notice less hunger, less cravings, better mental clarity. Now, I will say electrolytes are essential. Ketosis and fasting, they both increase urinary loss of sodium, potassium, and magnesium. Plain water is often not enough for 36 hours. So I recommend supplementing with unflavored electrolytes, or you could just take some good salt like Redmond's real salt and have that with some water, right? And that's going to help provide those minerals that you need. Taking salt or an unflavored electrolyte, that does not break the fast or halt autophagy. It prevents the headaches, fatigue, and cramps that come from mineral depletion. So for many people, again, just taking a pinch of good unrefined mineral salt like Redmond's real salt with water, that's going to help them feel much better while they're fasting. So what's allowed while you're fasting? Water, black coffee, plain tea, so no sweeteners added to it, and unflavored electrolytes. Avoid anything with calories, protein, or sweeteners that could spike insulin and switch mTOR back on. That's the key there. Now, when you break the fast, the refeed, we want to break it gently. A large, fast-digesting meal after 36 hours, for some people, that's going to cause a sharp insulin spike and gut discomfort, right? So gut pain, cramps, bloating, gas, it's going to cause problems. So here's my suggested sequence. Start with something gentle like bone broth, or like organic Greek yogurt with some collagen peptides and berries in it, something simple like that, or maybe a soup, like a bone broth based soup, or a protein shake, something along those lines can be really, really good. Something easy, already pre-metabolized, pre-broken down, easier on your system. You want to save heavier or higher carb foods for later. Avoid the sugar heavy reward meal. That's what a lot of people do. They go out and they have a big bowl of ice cream to break their fast. Not a good idea. It's going to spike insulin hard. It's going to work against the point of the fast. After you had the first meal, you should be fine to going back to a normal, healthy, high-protein nutrition plan. A lot of people will just break it with some bone broth, and then 2 hours later, they'll come and break it with a normal meal. So that's another option that you can do. Now, let's get into your most frequently asked questions. Number one, how often should you do the 36-hour fast? Well, for most people, you can do this one time a week and get great results. If you're leaner or you're doing a lot of resistance training, do it once a month. If your main goal is weight loss and anti-aging, do it once a week, and that's great. Just make sure you eat plenty of protein, lots of calories, lots of nutrient-dense foods on your eating days. Remember, it's important to balance these deep repair fasts with adequate protein intake and resistance training on the eating days so you preserve your strength and vitality. We know longevity is not just cleanup, it's not just cellular repair, it's also maintaining lean mass. So make sure you're eating nutrient-dense foods, lots of protein, and getting resistance training on your non-fasting days. Second question, can I exercise on a 36-hour fast? The answer is yes. In fact, I recommend doing it at the very end of the fast. That will get you peak autophagy levels, as exercise is another driver of autophagy and mitochondrial biogenesis. This is what I do. At the end of my 36-hour fast, literally like an hour before I break my fast, I get a great resistance training workout. And you might think that you're gonna feel weak, but actually your growth hormone is elevated and ketones are elevated. So you actually feel great. Like I feel really strong and good in the gym when I'm working out like that. Okay, however, what I will say is I need to break the fast after I do the resistance training. And if you exercise too early, like if you do it in the beginning of the fast or in the middle of the fast, that can end up causing hunger and cravings. So high intensity exercise should be done at the end of the 36-hour fast. Low intensity exercise, like walking, for example, that's a great low intensity exercise. You can do that anytime during the fast, and that will actually get you even more benefits from the fast. So when I'm doing a 36-hour fast, I like to take like 3 or 4 walks during that period of time, and that actually makes me feel better while I'm fasting, right? But I save resistance training, strength training for at the end of the fast. That's key. And then break your fast right after that. So the last question is, who should not do this? And that's a really important question. We know that a 36-hour fast is a meaningful physiological stress, and it's not appropriate for everyone. You should not do this if you're pregnant or nursing a baby, and you should skip it or be sure to consult a doctor first if you have type 1 diabetes, or if you're on some sort of insulin or glucose lowering medication, if you have a history of disordered eating like anorexia or bulimia, if you're underweight, or if you're under 18, or if you're elderly or frail, or take medications that require food, or if you're an extreme athlete in season and doing a lot of training, talk to your trainer or your physician first. And then as you're doing this, be sure to stop and reassess. If you feel faint, disoriented, or unwell, oftentimes electrolytes or salt water will help, but of course, if you're really feeling poorly, it's okay to break the fast. This is general education, not medical advice. Anyone with a medical condition should always check with their healthcare provider before attempting an extended fast. This isn't about starving yourself. It's about strategically using a deep fasting window to switch on one of your body's most powerful repair systems, then refeeding in a way that locks in the benefit. Done occasionally and done right. It's one of the most talked about tools in longevity for a reason. Just respect the safety cautions and build it in gradually. You can check out my fasting transformation quick start guide. I'll have a link in the description, and subscribe for more content like this. Share it with someone into longevity and tell me in the comments, what's the longest you've ever fasted? And are you going to try the 36-hour fast? As always, be blessed.